Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge. Let's talk horror. Today, I am so proud to be joined by Corey Norman. He has done work on various music videos as well as anthologies. You all know how I feel about anthologies. He's been in Monsterland 1 and 2, Invoking 2, The Witching, and he's got his first feature film, which was The Hanover House. And coming up this year, something we're all super excited about. You've heard me talk about it on the channel before. He's also directing Time's Up. How you doing today, man?
Dude, I am doing excellent. Kind of hanging out in a thunderstorm here in Maine. So
That's awesome, man. The thunderstorm's not awesome, but it's good to have you here, man. I'm super excited. I've heard a lot about Time's Up. Can you give us any information about what's going on with that? I know things are crazy with COVID right now, but Can you give us any type of updates on that?
Of course. So we've been kind of moving ahead. We did just shoot kind of a teaser scene for the film that we'll be using in our kind of Indiegogo campaign that's going to be going live beginning of September. So it was a very interesting, just filming during COVID was a different process, but it was a good warm up for us. You know, we're hoping to be full on production by January. So we considered it a test run. You know, we had the PPE out, all of our sanitization. I will say, I think the only thing that suffered because of COVID was the craft services table. But hey, some concessions have to be made. Sure.
And you were talking about the Indiegogo. What are you guys doing with that right now?
Yeah, so this project's very much going to be a labor of love. It started with Damien and LC both kind of coming to me saying, hey, we have this great movie. We have no funding. We should make it. I read the script and was like, holy hell, yes, we need to make this. So right now we're in that securing funding phase, and it seems like enough people are excited that we're going to try our hand at some crowdfunding and hope that in the process of that we can secure some other investors to kind of put us over the top. But we're going to make this thing come hell or high water. So.
And you guys can click down here. Like I said, support your indie filmmakers. Without these guys, we don't have these amazing films. I have the link down here in the description. Please be kind. Help these guys out. They're suffering just as much as we are during COVID. I'm not going to tell you to fast yourself to help these guys, but if you can give a little extra, give a little extra. Help out our indie filmmakers. And trust me, from what I've heard, not just from Corey, but also from Damien Maffei, who is in the movie, this is something you guys are not going to want to miss. This is our New Year's Eve slasher of all slashers. So we've been talking about it. We're very excited. So make sure you go down here in the description, try to help my buddies out. Besides that, what else you got? Anything else you got coming up here in the future? Or are you just all eyes on Time's Up right now?
Yeah, pretty much for me, it's all eyes on Time's Up, that and my day job. It's funny. I'm a horror filmmaker by night, a college professor by day. So just gearing up for the fall semester and spending as much time as I can in the land of Time's Up. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, while you're in the classroom, please be safe. While you're making Time's Up, please be safe. But now we are here to talk about the first horror movie that you ever watched, that got you started in the genre. I absolutely adore this pick. Your first horror movie was?
Monster Squad. And man, this was the hardest question because looking back, like there were so many films that were kind of pivotal, but this one got me hooked at a young age. 5 years old, 6 years old. I remember my parents were divorced. I'd go see my dad every other weekend, and he had Cinemax, and he had recorded Monster Squad for me, and I must have seen that film, God, a couple hundred times as a kid, and it's still at least a twice a year watch for me right now. So.
And I was explaining this to my son because when I talk to you guys and we decide what movie we're going to watch, I always, if it's not something that I haven't seen Monster Squad in probably 5 years, 10 years. So I went back and rewatched it. I'm explaining to my son, when at our age, this was Stranger Things when I was a kid. When I first saw Stranger Things, I tell everybody, this is a mix between The Goonies and Monster Squad. Like that's what Stranger Things is to me, with a little sprinkle of Alien in there. So Monster Squad to me it's so much fun. Who at our age, who didn't want to be part of this movie? This was, this is what we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wanted monsters to be in my backyard. I mean, yeah, And it's funny that you say The Goonies because that growing up was another one of my favorite movies. But man, it was not even in the same arena as Monster Squad. So.
And I don't know. I mean, now that I'm getting older and I'm talking to more people and I'm getting as lucky as I am finding more people that like Monster Squad. But as a kid, this was one of those movies that kind of flew under the radar. You know, not a lot of people were out there talking about Monster Squad. And I don't know if it's because they heard, you know, The Mummy, Werewolf, Frankenstein's Monster, Dracula, and they're like, oh, that's old stuff. But man, this is a fun movie. And going back on a rewatch, you know, the Wolfman's Dork, you know, like stuff like that. Like, it's a fun movie. But as a kid, one scene I want to talk about. I want to ask you first, what scene do you think affected you the most and why?
Whew. I can remember the ambulance drivers turned vampire women. Like towards the end of the film when they're kind of coming at Rudy, you know, and he's got the bow out. Like that creeped me out as a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
That one definitely stuck with me. But then when Wolfman gets the dynamite and just gets blown to pieces.
Out the window?
That was traumatizing yet badass as a 6-year-old. So.
See, for me, I don't know why it did it, but when they're on the plane and he goes to take Dracula out and he turns into the bat, like for me as a kid, like that just scared me so bad. You know, I go back and watch it now and it still looks good. It's not a bad effect, but I'm like, wow, that scared me. In my brain, it was way scarier to think about than it really is watching.
I can definitely see that. Definitely see that.
So out of the monsters in the movie, obviously you got all your main monsters from, you know, the Universal monsters. Which one do you think affected you the most? Which one was your favorite? Let's go with that.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, God, you just asked me these questions that are so difficult sometimes. It definitely changes. Like as a kid, I thought the Wolfman and like that kind of whole point was so badass. It's funny because I just went back and rewatched this last night in preparation, and it's like, you know, it's interesting. You know, Duncan kind of gives us like this beautiful kind of Hammer Dracula, but then like the creature design that Stan Winston did on, you know, on the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Stuff. I think like nowadays, that's at least my favorite character design in the movie. But I loved the Wolfman. I loved the interactions with him, and I loved his transformation. So growing up, maybe that was a little more my favorite.
Okay. So with the demises of the monsters, which demise of these monsters would be your favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, the Mummy.
The Mummy in the car?
Mummy, yeah. You know, arrow, boom.
See ya, Band-Aid breath.
Exactly. Such a good line. You know, and of all the kids in that movie, right? So, you know, Ryan Lambert, Rudy, by far gets the best kills, gets the best one-liners, like...
What? One of my favorite scenes too, and I don't know why it never sunk in as a kid, but when he's like, kick him in the junk, and he's like, it's a wolf. Then he ends up kicking him. He's like, oh my God, it worked.
Yeah. Wolfman's got nards. Probably the most quotable quote from that movie. Like,
Wolfman's got nards.
That was just a regular quoted line around our house all through childhood. I kicked my brother in the nuts at least a couple times quoting that line.
So awesome, man. It's funny because like we talk about horror movies and how they got us started in the genre, but at the same time, I love comedy as well. Mm-hmm. So horror comedies like this, you know, there were times that I look at this like I look at House and Fright Night. You know, as a kid, they were definitely way more horror than comedy.
Oh, totally.
But they still had those one-liners, like in this Wolfman's Got Nards or Fright Night, you know, oh, you're so cool, Brewster. You know, you had all these one-liners that we still said, and that's how much these movies affected us, that not only did they scare us, but they affected us so much that these one-liners were constantly going out of us all the time.
Yeah, and they were fun. I think, especially in the 80s era of horror, it's culturally very different than what we have now, because there was just this certain level of fun that came with all these horror films. I mean, you nailed so many of them. And there was such a suspension of disbelief that I feel like culturally we've gotten so far away from. So, you know, it's funny. I sit and watch a lot of these films with my nephew, and we're always back living in the wonderful world of the 80s. Last week was Terror Vision, which was another brilliant classic. So
nice, man. See, and you talk about going back and revisiting. Like I said before, I'm a big anthology movie fan. Creep Show 2. And I just introduced my son to Tales from the Hood. You know, if you've never seen Tales, that's a great I didn't like 2 as much, but Tales from the Hood was a great anthology movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid. So anthologies, I think, are the perfect horror movies, man. I love anthology movies. It's something I've always been a big fan of. So I'm glad that we got to talk about some of yours, and it's something that I'm definitely going to check these out, man, because I'm super excited to watch these.
Awesome. Well, I will say, kind of caveat when it comes to the anthologies, The Witching we did the wraparound for, and the other ones, the folks at Ruthless that kind of put them out just would see various shorts of ours on the festival circuit and kind of, you know, pick them for different ones. My favorite anthology we were on is on Hulu and Amazon, and it's called Charlotte. And we have a fun little segment on there called Tickle. It's about a tickle troll who tickles feet. Straight up 1980s. It's our love letter to VHS horror. And the fun part is, if you're not ticklish, he cuts your feet off. So, you know, little monster in your closet kind of film.
Okay, and you said that's on Hulu and Amazon Prime?
Yeah, Hulu and Amazon Prime right now.
Okay, I got that down here in the description, guys. So make sure you're also checking this out, something you can watch now. I'm going to be watching that tonight. So thank you. You've given me entertainment for the night.
Oh, no doubt.
Back to Monster Squad. When you think of Monster Squad, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
The first thing that pops into my head, well, I mean, we've already hit that. Like, that was straight Wolfman's Gardenards. I don't know, man. There's so much good stuff. Like, you know, you got something, you know, it's a Fred Decker, Shane Black collaboration. So you've got always a little bit of that tongue in cheek. One thing I had totally missed is, you know, they're in the clubhouse and they're drilling Rudy on, you know, the monster facts for their monster quiz to join, right? What are the 2 ways to kill a werewolf? And I love it because the things they throw out, one of them, push them out a window, blow them up with a bomb, which is literally at the end of the movie, and it doesn't work, you know?
Right. So, I love it. In that scene how they're like, there's more than one way. He's like, what's the other way? They're like, huh? What? And I love when the sister comes up and she's like, Mom says you have to let me in or else it's prescription. He's like, it's segregation. You're on prescription drugs if you think you're coming in this clubhouse.
And, you know, and it's funny because you nailed, I think, my other favorite thing about that movie is Phoebe. As a character, she is by far the best in the squad, even though she's not even officially in it. Right? Adorable as hell. So funny. But yet when the monsters show up, she's the only one that's not a chicken shit. So.
She says that too when she's with Frankenstein. She's like, don't be a chicken shit or something like what. I can't remember exactly what she said.
Don't be a chicken shit, yeah.
Yeah, don't be a chicken shit. Yes, I love that part. And you're right. She is one of the best characters in the whole movie.
Oh, so good. You know, and it's funny too. The other thing that I love about this film is there's so many little nods back to, you know, the Universal monsters that inspired them. Just like that moment where she meets Frankie by the, you know, the little pond. I mean, that's straight out of the old Universal classic. So,
which he gives the flower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, the fact that they bring all that in too, there's so many levels to this that, you know, again, as a kid, I missed that. Just kind of begs for the rewatching. And I swear every single time I see something different. So. Yeah.
And it's so funny you say that because I love the fact that you are not only a fan of Monster Squad, but a fan of Universal Monsters because I had CJ Graham who played Jason in Friday 6. And he told me that
Friday.
I get that so much, man. He told me that his Jason was a direct influence of Frankenstein. Everything from him getting electrocuted to come back and everything about him was Frankenstein's monster. He's a huge Universal Monsters fan. And yeah, and then you start watching that movie and thinking about Frankenstein's monster. You're like, oh my gosh, the similarities are so insane. Like even when he meets the kid, you know, and he doesn't hurt the kid, Jason. You know, like the similarities between him and Frankenstein's monster in Friday 6 are amazing.
It's crazy that you say that too, because that's a big departure from the, you know, the previous Part 4 installment where he wants to, you know, destroy little Tommy Jarvis. So interesting shift there. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it now with that context.
Yeah, it's something that I did right after we were done. I was like, wow, he's right. Because he was telling me, he's like, you know, you get electrocuted to come back. The first thing he does is meet up with a kid. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, man. You know, so he was saying that Jason is directly influenced by Frankenstein's monster. And That's something that's really cool, that you watch these things that come in cycles and the influence that they have, you know, even with Scream, how Scream is directly, influenced by Halloween, which I believe is the first, I'll say the second slasher behind Psycho. I always like to say Psycho was the first
Well, I
slasher.
mean, Psycho was the beginning of the new horror movement, and kind of
Yeah.
brought us away from all of the castles and, gothic
Mhm.
stuff to the horror in our backyard. So
Yeah.
without a doubt.
So, and it's so fun to watch how these things move in cycles. And when you hear someone that you've looked up to your whole life that played Jason Voorhees talk about something he's looked up to and how he incorporated that in his own film, it's just so cool to learn this stuff to me. Like learning the behind the scenes, because number one, I'm a fan first. This is
Yeah.
something that I only ask people to come on that I know, because not that I know, but that I'm a fan of. Because I want to be able to talk to you about these things without sounding like an idiot, like I've been researching it all day before I talk to you. These are things that I genuinely want to talk to you about because I'm interested in where this started for you.
Yeah.
And I hooked up with you because of Damien, the great things he had to say about you and Time's Up and LC as well. That's somebody I've been reaching out to. I'm hoping to get in contact with. So it's one of those things where I'm a huge fan. So being able to wax poetic with you about these things that we both grew up doing is just so much fun for me. So I, again, want to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Dude, no problem. And, it's interesting, with what you're looking into, whenever we sit down to make a movie, we want to pay, or at least me personally, I like to pay as much homage as I can while also kind of reinventing the wheel, if you will. Like, I don't want to regurgitate, but you kind of cherry pick those little moments, or, hey, we're going to use this shot. This is kind of an ode to this. Like, we had a little bit of fun and invoked a little bit of, Dario Argento just with our lighting design for the teaser that you folks are going to get to see here shortly. So
I'm so excited to see it, man. And like I said, make sure you guys, I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, support these guys down here in the description. I know you guys are going to be so proud of it once you see Time's Up as well. We got two more questions for you before I let you go. Number one, we talked about your first horror movie, Monster Squad, really got you into the genre. Now I want to go a little bit deeper here. What is your favorite horror movie?
Oh, goddamn. The hardest question people always ask. So here's the deal, all right? I am a lifelong Mainer. I live and breathe Maine. And here in the state, we cannot get rid of the shadow that is Stephen King.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that as a negative. I am a ginormous King fan. If you ever come to Maine, I will give you the super Stephen King tour. But that being said, favorite movie for me, favorite horror movie has always been The Shining. Obviously the Kubrick version, I know King hates it. But again, just in terms of levels and attention to detail, I just absolutely love that movie. It is very much followed as a close second by Evil Dead 2. Love that as well. So it's, it's hard.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny you talk about The Shining. I got to show you this real quick. I have a planner where I write down my dates and schedules of everybody that's coming on.
I love it.
Yes. You've always been here, bro. So this, it's something that, I, just like you, I live and breathe horror, man. And Stephen King, one of my favorite movies of all time is Sometimes They Come Back, which was one of his.
Such a good underrated movie.
Dude, if you get a chance, go on my channel. I had Chris Demetral that played Wayne, the older brother.
Yeah.
He tells us some pretty cool behind the scenes stuff from Sometimes They Come Back. So If you get a chance, watch that interview, man. That was a lot of fun with him.
I'm going to have to. And before we go any further, I want to see your book and match you with my
Oh, nice.
So
That's so awesome, man. That's intense. Our last question, something I end every episode with, we have a skull count. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. Monster Squad. Where's it ranked on yours?
Oh, I mean, 5. It's, that's an easy one, man.
It's very rare I get anything other than 5 on our first, man.
We're gonna just change your rating. It's gonna go to a 6.
Oh.
It's gonna go to a 6. Yeah, I know. We just upped the ante for this one.
We just picked the Mummies one up off the ground.
Exactly.
Added it to the collection. All right, well, don't go anywhere, man. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Keep talking horror. Stay what you are, and we'll talk to you guys soon.